So dudes, welcome back to the third episode of Delusional Gacha Takes. I'm your host, the god of Gacha himself, Tuhu, and today I want to talk about this tweet from Ryuku Sensei and why this is an unbelievably bad take. If you're new to the channel, my name is ToaSniper98, but again, you can just call me Tuhu, and I am the god of gacha games. I've been playing gacha for the last 8 years, and right now I'm maining 13 of them at once. The clip that I just showed is actually outdated, by the way. Replace GFL1 with GFL2 and add etc, and then it'll be accurate. This video is a part of a new semi-regular series where I discuss gacha drama that either I come across or viewers let me know about, and I feel the need to call it out. What I want to talk about today isn't really drama per se, but I saw this tweet pop up on my timeline about last week or so from a gacha CC named Ryuku Sensei, and reading it made me wonder how the f this guy is even allowed to be a gacha content creator, so here we are. In this tweet, Ryuku said, actually, I'm not even going to call him Sensei. That implies he actually knows a thing or two about gacha. Ryuku says, it really does seem like Hoyo isn't even trying anymore. Literally zero effort in anything they're putting out. I always get asked, you always talk bad about Hoyo, but why don't you cover the good stuff that Hoyo does? Sure, I'll do it when they do something good. Come on, man. There are a few things that are very ignorant about this tweet. Let's start with the comparison he's making here between the splash arts for Wuwa and Genshin in relation to his quote retweet. If he said something along the lines of, man, Wuwa's killing it with the splash arts, just look at how much better they look compared to Genshin's these days, I actually wouldn't have a problem with that. Because yeah, if you look at these two splash arts for Zanny and Escoffier, if I'm pronouncing that right, there's no doubt that Zanny's looks more impressive with its extremely detailed background that reminds me of an Arknight's E2 background, while Escoffier's is just like a pattern behind her or something. But that ain't what Ryuku said now, is it? Instead, he goes all, it really does seem like Hoyo isn't even trying anymore, which implies that he thinks that Genshin's splash arts have like degraded over time or something. Okay, then let's go check out some splash arts that Genshin's made before over the past 5 years to see if that's really the case or not. Here's Mona, Ganyu, Yoimiya, Dehya, Navia, and Zilanen. If you ask me, everyone's splash arts here seem pretty consistent. All the characters are decorated with something in the background that relates to them. Mona's got like planets and stars and runes because of her astrology stuff. Ganyu's got cryo flowers. Yoimiya's got fireworks. Dehya's got flames, spears, and that pyro sword thing that she uses for her skill. Navia's got big ass cannons and an explosion. And Zilo's got sound waves because she's got her own turntables or something like that for some reason. The exceptions to this pattern are the Archons, who have much more detailed splash arts than everyone else, but like, it should be obvious why. It's because they're the Archons. They represent their entire regions, and so their splash arts have something to do with that. Matter of fact, technically, miHoYo seems to have improved a little bit, since Venti's is clearly the simplest, but everyone else after him has better looking backgrounds, and Venti was the first Archon we got in the game. It's not like a huge improvement, to be fair, but to say that Hoyo isn't even trying anymore? What's even more hilarious is that the first reply thread to Ryuku's QRT, this guy gives an example of Zhongli as like the only splash art that they legit like from Genshin, and then Ryuku follows it up with, back when they actually put effort into the game, ... So we're doubling down on the dog take now, are we? But then this Cosmos guy replies with, I can't say that's the truth because if you look at the other splash arts around the same patches, they were all mid. They're all just their abilities, their elements, and a little bit of background. And guess what? Ryuku's nowhere to be found. How f***ing convenient. This random Twitter guy had the 1.5 brain cells that you needed to realize that Ryuku's comparison was trash. They went back and looked at the other splash arts in the game and saw that they're pretty much all the same quality. Again, with the exceptions of the Archons, so clearly it can't be that miHoYo isn't even trying anymore, like Ryuku's trying to claim that it is. And you're telling me that a content creator like Ryuku couldn't do that? Are you f***ing kidding me? These are the people you call content creators for the gacha scene? Again, if Ryuku's tweet was about him saying that he prefers Wuwa's splash arts because they look better, then there's nothing I'll say against that, because I agree, Wuwa's splash arts have consistently been better than Genshin's, even going back to the start of the game. Hell, even the perma 5 stars all have very detailed backgrounds to the point where you need Genshin's Archons to compare them appropriately. So he can glaze Kuro all he wants in this sense, and while I'd still roast him for sucking Kuro's dick like his name is Saint Tontus, there's no denying that Wuwa's splash arts are indeed more detailed and have more effort put into them. But to talk some bull about how MiHoYo isn't even trying anymore, when 1, that doesn't seem to be the case when we looked at Genshin splash arts over the years, and 2, it's clearly a stylistic choice and there's a very obvious pattern to not just Genshin's but also Wuwa's? Nah, you're delusional. The second ignorant part of Ryuku's tweet is this, and bear with me, Wuwa glazers, including you too, Ryuku, because this might be a little bit rough for y'all to listen to. Genshin is still the biggest, most popular gacha game in the world. Now, before y'all start instantly typing up your comments below, calling me a Hoyo shill, I say that Genshin is the most popular gacha in the world, not to glaze it, but rather to point out something that most people will never think about when it comes to comparing big gachas. If you want to make a big production gacha, like Wuthering Waves these days, Genshin Impact is the game you're trying to beat. Genshin is your main competition, especially considering what kind of a game Wuwa is, another open-world, exploration-based gacha game. And with how big Genshin is and how much of a head start it has, it's gonna be tough. So Kuro's gotta put in mad effort to try and play catch-up. They gotta put in the 150%, the 200% effort to make Wuwa as good of a product as they can in order to give players a reason to come try out their game and, more importantly, stick with it instead of going back to play other gachas like Genshin. Now, don't get me wrong, Genshin isn't without its own problems either. It's far from a perfect gacha, and there's plenty of things that MiHoYo can do to improve it. Lots of quality of life stuff and content that they could add to make Genshin a better game. Hell, I even made not just 1, but 2 videos, both 2 years ago and last year, detailing all the ways that I could think of to improve Genshin Impact. And since I'm only one guy, I'm sure there are plenty of other things that I haven't thought of or I just missed that other people could suggest. But here's the thing, because Genshin is still the most popular gacha in the world, they have what I like to call top gacha privilege. It's kind of like an economic monopoly in the sense that because Genshin is the biggest gacha out there, they can do literally whatever they want. They can have any kind of content schedule, any kind of agenda. They can do literally whatever the they want, because they know that as long as they keep their core audience happy and do what they've always done for the past 5 years, there will always be people who will still play their game and pay for new characters and weapons. No other gacha studio or company can do something quite like this, with maybe the exceptions of like really old legacy Japanese gachas like Grand Blue Fantasy or FGO or Sennon Aegis, but even FGO finally added a pity to their gacha like 6 or 7 years in, and guess what the reason for that was? That's right, it was Genshin, because before them, FGO was actually one of the most popular gachas in the world, and they had top gacha privilege because of their popularity and the power of the Fate IP. But now that Genshin Impact exists, and FGO's been having developer problems with their dev team leaving their previous company Delightworks and having staff shortages and other issues, the game has been compelled to add an actual pity that it didn't have for the majority of its life cycle in an attempt to stay relevant and keep up with the evolving gacha industry. Now, Kuro Game is in the position that MiHoYo was in 5 years ago, where they're the ones who have to prove to everyone that their game, Wuthering Waves, is worth playing over Genshin. It's not impossible, obviously. Kuro's been able to secure a, let's just call them a very loyal fan base who thinks Kuro can do no wrong. But the point I'm trying to make here is that between MiHoYo and Kuro, it's Kuro that needs to put in the extra effort to have Wuwa compete with Genshin. The ball is in their court to make Wuwa as good of a gacha as they can and keep improving it as much as possible. That's why in the context of Ryuku's tweet, Wuwa's character splash arts are much more detailed and look way more impressive than Genshin's because they have to be. If Wuwa's splash arts were the same thing as Genshin's, a lot of people will look at them and go, oh, it's just another Genshin. Why would I play this Wuthering Waves game when I'm already playing Genshin? You might say it's unfair to judge how good Wuwa is simply based off splash arts, and, I would agree, but in this case, for casual gacha players, one of the best ways to get them to play your game is to impress them with your characters, so how they look is a critical part of a gacha success. But hey, Ryuku looks at character splash arts in 2 different gachas and instantly comes to the conclusion that, oh, MiHoYo isn't even making any effort anymore, just based off that. So, what comes around goes around, I guess. Last thing I want to talk about for this video is Ryuku himself. I first learned about him as a gacha CC late last year when one of my viewers linked me one of his videos criticizing Star Rail's story. Though for some reason, even though he talked mainly about the story if I recall correctly, the video itself was titled, "Honkai Star Rail is the worst gacha I've ever played!" Your classic dog clickbait thumbnail and video title that so many dog gacha content creators do. But the video itself was good. Like, I agreed with most of what he talked about in it because I myself made a video earlier that year complaining about Panakini's story and how much of a waste of potential that was. Only thing I didn't really like about Ryuku's video, though, was the fact that at the end, he seemed to, try to backpedal a lot of his aggression he had throughout the video towards Star Rail, which is a bit funny when one of his other videos looks like this. Delusion, huh? Dude's clearly never looked in a mirror before. Since that was my first impression of him, I've had something of a neutral to maybe a slightly positive opinion of him, that and people don't really bring him up in my streams compared to other CCs, like Gacha Smacker, Saint Tontus, whose retarded gacha takes breach containment on a daily basis, it seems like. So to see Ryuku make a tweet like this is pretty disappointing, man. It's one thing to make clickbait content and exaggerate things a little. I get it. That's just how the content creation game works, and as much as I hate it, that's what brings in the clicks and views, and I'm no exception myself either with this whole delusional gacha take series that I got going on here. But this tweet is not it. This is just pure, unadulterated, 100% synthetic Wuwa glaze. And while it's not the worst Wuwa glazing I've seen, go look at St. Tontus for that, that's still what it is. It's ignorant, short-sighted, and biased. You can be a fan of one particular game over another. That on its own is fine. Hell, you can even talk about other games that you don't like. And while I don't condone that sort of behavior, that's just what people are gonna do. But at the very least, if you're gonna talk don't be retarded about it. Again, there was a better way for Ryuku to make that tweet. Even he says in his own tweet that he'll cover the good stuff that Hoyo does, which implies that he's willing to give MiHoYo credit where credit is due. So, he could have said something like, "Man, Wuwa's splash arts look so good compared to Genshin's. I hope Genshin could maybe one day improve their splash arts too to kind of look like this," or something like that. But clearly that's not what he chose to do. Instead, he went full Wuwa glazer mode and felt the need to put down Genshin because that's the popular thing to do. To brainlessly hate on Genshin, to suck Wuwa's dick a little more, and make himself look like a cunt. Oh, and kindly allow me to remind you all that since Ryuku put MiHoYo as a whole on blast for, not putting in any effort, I could bring in all of Zenless Zone Zero into this conversation, and how well MiHoYo's been handling that game so far. But for the sake of video length, and because I think I've made my point abundantly clear by now, I'll refrain from doing so. For someone who calls himself Sensei and claims that he's a gacha addict in his Twitter profile, you are neither. You're just another drone in a sea of uneducated gacha content creators who do nothing but bottom feed the dregs of the ocean for the latest little morsels of Wuwa content that you can lap up to keep blasting your stupid Kuro agenda from out your ass cracks. Also, get rid of the word sensei from all your social media handles, cause clearly that doesn't mean anything to you. Calling yourself sensei implies that you want to teach people about something, in this case gacha. Not only does it seem like you're not doing that, but you don't seem to know jack about gachas to begin with. You're not a teacher, you're a preacher, and a bad one too. And in my domain as the god of gacha, I don't tolerate false prophets. So I'm here to tell the rest of you that Ryuku, at least in this tweet, is delusional. And don't bother wasting your time trying to hit me back with the usual, oh, you're just a Hoyo shill because you're defending me Hoyo, like you probably will once you see this video, because if you do, hey, I'll just bring up your own damn Twitter page and show you what your last 10 or so posts look like. Gee, I wonder who the real shill is here. And that'll do it for the third episode of Delusional Gacha Takes. Once again, I'm Tuhu, your host with the most, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me put these delusional gacha dumbasses in their place. If you guys know any gacha drama going on, or just bad gacha takes in general that you want me to cover, let me know down in the comments below. And subscribe to the channel for more, and boy oh boy will there be more. All my social links are down in the description below, and if you really enjoy the content, consider supporting me on Patreon as well, and come watch my streams either right here on YouTube or over on Twitch, cause I dual stream. Thanks for watching, be cool y'all, and we'll see you in the next one.